really making it student-centered and focusing around just a welcoming, inviting, safe environment for them. And then there's been some co-teaching done at some of the schools where we have the behavioral specialists doing some co-teaching with some general ed educators as well as some special educators. We have special educators doing some co-teaching with specialists, and then just special educators co-teaching with special educators for some behavioral components there too. So it's really a lot of awesome progress going on at the tier 2 and 3. At the secondary level, they have the small groups. There's the building-wide learner support. There's data, and then how we use it to create those meaningful groups. And then the transformation of the space in the school counseling center and utilizing the different spaces that they have there to meet the individual student needs and the larger student needs as well. So it's a nice place for them to go and, you know, re-regulate or just decompress and regroup. So things to celebrate with the MTSS-B pieces, the community meetings at the elementary level have been incredible, and that's all through the responsive classroom piece. And I've been able to witness a couple of them, and just hearing the feedback from learners, staff, and the community and parents has been overwhelmingly positive. We've increased collaboration with outside agencies, especially at the middle school, high school level. And it's been really nice to pull those outside agencies and partnerships back into the school to assist our learners and us as a school district as well. We've increased professional development. One of the things that we really wanted to focus on is like the responsive classroom at the elementary school. We wanted to make sure that when we do something, we're going to do it, follow through with it, and make sure that we do it really, really well. So we put a lot of attention and focus on that responsive classroom pieces. We'll continue to look at moving forward what other additional professional development is needed. The responsive classroom itself has been a huge success at the elementary levels, and Nikki and Ashley will be able to speak more to that later on. The co-teaching pieces, again, we have some co-teaching models going on here at the middle school, high school. We also have it going on at the elementary schools, and it's just working really, really well, and the learners are getting a lot out of that. And I think the staff as well, you know, hearing the positive feedback from them, are really enjoying that collaboration piece. We have, again, things to celebrate. The transformation of space at JGS and here at the middle school, high school, and the counseling center has been a really great place for learners to go and get the support that they need in regards to their behavioral and social emotional learning. And then just overall, our staff, our learners and families have been awesome. And it's great to see the work that they're putting in to improve their social emotional capacity. The staff is just great and, you know, excited and putting in the work around the professional development and really gaining as much as they can for our learners. And the families have been very connected, more so this year than in years past. So it's great to see that build as well, making those connections. Some areas that we want to continue to focus on for tier 1, we want to continue our conversations around some core values versus social expectations. Social expectations, those are things that we just expect that will happen. When we're looking at rewarding or celebrating or acknowledging positive behavior, we want to make sure that it's not just an expectation that the kids following that, but it's part of who they are, part of the being pieces. We want to continue to work around professional development. Again, we want to continue with the responsive classroom. We want to continue to provide more around that second step as we move forward with that, and then continue with the professional development around zones of regulation so that we're becoming more responsive with that and doing it with more fidelity. And then we also want to develop goals based on the MFI results, which is the MTSS-B fidelity inventory that we take, that gets submitted to the state. And then they kick back a report for us to take a look at, and shows areas of growth and areas to take a look at for continued growth. For tier 2 and 3, again, we're going to continue working with our data, evaluate and select tier 2, 3 interventions as we work with those learners who are falling in those tiers. We want to continue with our professional development around those interventions. We want to really nail down the request for assistance, and that's teachers asking for support within the building, It's the schools asking for support within the community and the partnerships. And again, we also want to develop the goals based on the MFI results at the tier 2-3 level. Nick, if you want to skip 2 slides. So this is our tier 1, which is the school-wide level MTSS-B fidelity inventory. So we take a look at different domains such as school fiscal support or school professional development, and the staff take that survey, they rate it on a scale of 0 to 4, 0 meaning not in place, and 4 being the highest where it is completely in place. What we do is we do that as a group, and then we have some deep discussions around each component, and we come up with a final rating. I submit that rating to the Department of Education. They will kick back a report in a couple months or so, and we'll take a look at those results. We have preliminary results of the stuff that I send. I know what we had scored on the ratings. So this chart right here, that blue line is what we had scored ourselves. We were rated as from last school year. This will be done on a yearly basis. That yellow line is the preliminary results from this year. We don't have a report back yet. They have been submitted to the Department of Ed, but based on the results, the scores, the average scores from what I submitted. So we can see that we have some areas that we have grown tremendously in, especially around the school behavioral expectations. And the professional development is something that we really focused on as well this year. That very last one, where it's a tier 1 behavioral health consultation, that we didn't show any growth. A lot of that is dependent on what's available outside in the community. And because they've seen staff reductions and overwhelming number of referrals, they're just not able to meet the specific language that's in that domain. So we continue to work with them on that.
Are these connected? Like I see a spike and a drop, but these aren't connected, right? These are like the one that spikes is on school behavior expectations, but then it doesn't go down. Like, is that what this, am I reading this right?
Correct. So the school-wide, the school behavioral expectation last year, we scored at a 0.5. So it was basically not in place. Because we put a lot of work and effort, the schools have rated themselves at a 2.5. So that was the growth that they had seen on that.
Okay, right. That's good.
On the next slide, we have the MTSS-B fidelity inventory for tier 2 and 3. So we rated that on a scale of 0 to 4. That blue line shows where we were last school year. That yellow line shows where we are this school year. We have really focused a lot of our attention on the school student progress tracking and how we're monitoring students. So we've seen a lot of growth in that area as well. And then the tier 2-3 database team decision is using that data that we've collected and making our decisions on what we're doing with our learners and how to move forward with those learners. So our next steps at the elementary level, and we just submitted our MFI results. So we'll be taking a look at those and developing some goals based off of that. We'll do the same thing at the middle school, high school. We'll take a look at those results, see where we want to put our focus and attention on. At the district level, we will conduct the district-wide MTSS-B fidelity inventory within the next month or so. And then we're going to continue to support the professional development efforts to support our initiatives. That's it.
A question. This is a self-evaluation.
Yes.
Can you talk about student tracking data? Are you going to share any of that relative to student performance or changes in incidents or kind of things that you want to change as to whether or not they're changing?
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that information. So for example, the middle school, high school has noticed that they have reduced their office referrals and number of out of school suspensions and school suspensions. So that will be part of, so there's a bunch of data that we take a look at, and then we start to compare it and, disaggregate and aggregate and all that good stuff and determine, based on individuals, do we need to make specific learning plans for them to make progress? And then when we take a look at those, how are we monitoring those students as well? So that will all be part of our end result as we start to compile the data.
So when can we expect that you're sure?
We did a middle school, high school at the last ed committee shared
Okay.
sort of like a mid-year data point or first trimester, I guess. So, I think our goal at least is to continue sharing that both with MTSS-B lens and also with the ed committee separately. So I think we were planning another after the second kind of trimester timeframe is done.
Oh, the outside agencies and stuff like that, people have talked about that. What are they? I may have missed that, so sorry.
No, that's okay. We didn't mention anything specific, so
Oh.
like Reality Check, River Center, outside counseling services,
Mhm.
like Reality Check has been in the classroom, has been part of the school counseling team meetings to look at programming. River Center is coming over at the start of the first semester and going to do, kind of a small group, like we call it life skills, but it's budgeting, career, getting our learners ready, and those learners can be in grades 10, 11, or 12, and small group, and that's something we'll continue kind of every semester after that. So those are two that I can speak specifically to. And we're gonna have the mock bedroom again, bringing that
Oh,
back,
yeah.
and that will happen in March. So those are just two of
The simulator you have
and
coming in.
oh, yes, we have Save a Life, so, and that's in March also, and that's through a grant through, Cheshire Medical Center, and they're coming and they're going to bring, it's really about distracted driving,
Mm.
driving under the influence, and so the gym will be set up and there'll be all kinds of interactive simulations that our learners can go through, our high school learners can go through. So those kinds of resources, and the person that oversees the grants for the Cheshire Medical Center will be there, will be coming too, so we'll have an opportunity to talk about other potential programming opportunities that might be available to us for the following school year. So those are just samples for the middle school. It's exciting.
And then we have an outside agency member who comes in and provides counseling services to some learners in the school
Mhm.
where they can't get out to the community.
We have therapy, therapy
We
dogs.
have the
yeah.
therapy dogs at the elementary school as well.
We also want to go down here too.
Excellent.
So, comment. I'm a slow learner, and there's a lot of information packed in the slide. So it's possible to get it before the meeting, the day before the meeting.
Yep.
So I can actually read it. You talk faster than I can read.
We up? Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
So we just have a couple of slides, I think 4, not including this one. So pretty short and sweet. Just an update of where we are. I know last time we were here, we spoke a lot about responsive classroom. It's almost like I wish we could have ended. We go to the last slide, Nick, and then we'll actually come back to it?
Yeah.
We
So
just talked
does
about
that matter?
which we had changed
Is that
it.
cheating if you use a slide twice? I don't know. I think this is sort of like just coming off what's already been shared. We last spring, both JGS and RMS groups, teams of people through the MTSS-B work did a lot of research around what are the most effective social emotional learning curriculum. So a tool, a program to teach with. So the middle school is using Second Step. And we did a lot of research and we narrowed it down to 2. So that information's on the box on the right-hand side. We've narrowed it down to 2, positive actions and Second Step. There's a lot of components that Second Step is already in place at the elementary school through the work from our school counselors and their push in tier 1 lessons. We've sort of taken a little bit of a hiatus in terms of making a decision which one we were going to move forward with, because it was evident that the how we were going to have our schools run and be as a place was missing, and that's where responsive classroom came in. So responsive classroom is really like a philosophical base of like, what do we believe about children? What do we believe about the importance of social connections? We believe that, you know, social learning is just as important as academic learning. And it was really important that we built that foundation first, rather than just going out and buying a curriculum or a kit and then putting it in the hands of teachers, that without having that school-wide approach to what do we believe about students. So our next steps are to do some pilot work with both of those programs potentially, and get feedback from our larger school communities in order to be able to make a decision about which one do we move forward with. Sort of a little bit different currently, our school counselors are providing a lot of that instruction, but second step at the elementary level is really intended to be taught by the classroom teacher. And so then also making sure that we balance the new things that we're asking teachers to embrace and be a part of. And so we decided to put all of our eggs into the responsive classroom bucket this year, because we felt like it was so important that we built a culture and a climate within our school that really supported a safe, positive, welcoming school community with certain key aspects in place. So we'll come back to this at the end. Can we go back now, Nick, to the beginning? So some highlights. We talked last time about our community meetings that are twice a month. Now, is that bi-weekly or bi-monthly? I guess it depends on who you ask. I would say it's fortnightly, but every 2 weeks we have a community meeting at both of the elementary schools. They're short, they're succinct, and the purpose is really to come together, connect, celebrate, and share learning. So I can speak to some of the things that we've done at RMS, and Ashley can speak to JGS. So it's a whole school gathering. Everybody comes, from our 3-year-old preschoolers to our 11-year-old fifth graders. We usually start off with a greeting. We say happy birthday to the people whose birthday it is. We've used it to kick off all school events like our food drive, and then also to roll out universal, so for everyone, expectations, procedures, and routines. So we did sort of like a skit around what does it look like to line up safely and respectfully at RMS for dismissal for riding the bus. We've done some work around whole body listening. What does that look like? Tomorrow we have our community meeting, and it's all about how to greet someone at school. We have a lot of learners that when they come in through the door and we say good morning, they just sort of keep on going right by. And so just those social, the etiquette of how do you interact with other people. So we're going to highlight that tomorrow. We've also used it to celebrate student accomplishments, and then students are really actively involved. And so we have student speakers, classes say, we'd like to come and read a poem about Veterans Day. We'd like to do this. So the school is really taking ownership of community meetings.
Yeah, and JGS follows a similar model, obviously. So the whole school's there, everyone there. Something that both schools do, they sit with their buddy classes. So, you know, if the buddy class is a 2nd grade and a 5th grade, they sit together for the community meeting, and buddy classes meet outside of that time. So they might meet to read, to do crafts, you know, a few times a month, once a week, it depends. So, and we are typically sitting in like sort of a horseshoe shape so everyone can see everyone else. The whole school greetings take place. Sometimes they're sort of a fun little sing-songy hello. Sometimes it's a, you know, quieter, just welcome, but we all greet each other. That happens both JGS and RMS, obviously. At JGS, we've taken the opportunity to use stories and themes of habits of mind. So we just recently did a sort of Power of Yet skit that was taken from Sesame Street, actually. So we talked about a scenario where someone can't do something and other people coming in and say you can't do it yet, so building up that, you know, the work ethic, the growth mindset. We've read various stories, you know, about cooperation, togetherness, and then the Be Still life was around the holidays, which can be a very busy time and a very fast-paced time. So we took a community meeting to talk about peace, calmness, and being mindful. again, poems and songs presented by learners, and that's really happening more and more. And we would like before the end of the year for, everyone who wants to share something at community meeting. It's very important. And similarly, rolling out routines, procedures, expectations. We've done something similar at JGS with how do we greet someone in the morning. It's pretty common for kids to just bypass you completely. And then again, acknowledgement of celebrations, birthdays, and upcoming events. And they're 15 minutes.
Yep.
Quick. In and out.
Just enough for the attention span
Yeah.
of elementary age students. You want to go to the next slide, Nick? So kind of in connection with the work that's happening in the middle and high school, historically, our school counselors have been the primary person who is providing that tier 1 social emotional learning instruction. Back when Miss Malone was at JGS, she was doing it. So this isn't necessarily something new, but it's a continuation of an ongoing practice. Our school counselors push into classrooms on a regular basis and provide instruction using both second step and zones of regulation. But then they also incorporate some mindfulness activities as well. So maybe some breathing exercises, some simple yoga practices, and kind of build lessons that provide students not only with strategies and skills for themselves, but also an awareness of, skills and dispositions to be an active learner, how to be empathetic, and have self-regulation, emotion management, all of those pieces. How it's delivered both at JGS and RMS is a little bit different. I think as we continue to work, we can continue to get a little bit more and more aligned. So that work will keep on going. Nick, if you could go to the next slide.
Sure. And something that we're really excited about, obviously, as you can see from the pictures, the kids are too, is Boonfield Labrador dogs have come in. They started in Ringe earlier in the year. So they've been coming most of the school
Yeah,
year,
they actually came to PD
Oh,
days
yeah.
with staff at the beginning of the year. So we had them come in just when it was just staff.
And some really little puppies.
Yeah.
And then at JGS, I'm remembering this now, they actually came to a community meeting, which was a little bit interesting. They came in at the end, and that was the introduction to the Labrador. So we just brought the dogs right on into community meeting. So they come and they spend time, there's a schedule, they come twice per month. And each class signs up for a slot. So they spend time with every single class once per month. And they come, they visit. I'm not sure exactly what happens at RMS. Do they read to them? I think it's more just a time for them to come in, to be with the dogs. They can read with them. They can sit with them. Just hug them, love them. There have been a research that has suggested that these animals can have a lasting and positive impact on kids. There's research to suggest just by petting dogs, you can, over a course of time, it can help to lower your blood pressure. It's just good for the kids.
Yeah. They were at RMS today. We have 2 dogs that come in on a Thursday, and I think our learners I think they see them twice a month. So it's every other week that their class gets to spend time with the dogs. And there's kind of like this breath of when the dogs are there. It's really neat to see. And they bring a lot of joy, but a lot of peace, I think, again, just that calming presence. They're exceptionally well behaved. They're incredible dogs, and their handlers are really wonderful too. So it's great. So that piece again helps to create that culture and climate of calm, of peacefulness, of feeling, that I'm able to control myself. I'm able to, to maybe step away with the dog for a moment and then come back and be ready to learn.
Of connection.
It's really great. So Nick, if we could go to the last slide again. So that's sort of like that building that base, building a philosophy and a community and a culture within our schools that allows us to then bring in curriculum that is going to have something to sit on top of. I often think about like responsive classroom and some of these other things that we're doing, like the Boonfield Dogs community meeting. It is the plate that everything else sits on. And without that plate, it's a little bit like trying to put soup in a basket. All the stuff runs through, and some of it stays and some of it doesn't. But if we have this school-wide culture of taking care of, feeling safe, feeling comfortable, then we start to deliver core instruction, and it has a place to sit. That becomes more meaningful to students, and then they're able to start to apply those skills, use those strategies, and not just talk about them when they're calm or when they're being an active listener. They can identify what they're doing, but actually kind of reset and help themselves when they're not, which is ultimately the goal, right? Is that they don't just learn these skills as a parlor trick, so I can tell you what the right thing to do is, but that I start to embody them, and I can see how they can help me to be successful.
And we're committed to responsive classroom through professional development. We have at RMS, one of the certified trainers will be spending a day at the school in March, and we've planned for them to come on a community meeting day.
Yeah.
So they get to see, and they spend the whole day. They watch routines, they watch how, kids come and go, and they provide feedback for us about, for the future and how we can build upon our practice. And they'll be visiting next year at some time to be determined at JGS. We're going to be offering another 4-day training at the end of June, I think is settled, for RMS and JGS teachers to take the responsive classroom full training, with the hope that by next year, many more of our educators have gone through the full training.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Two questions. You might need to see the slides pretty easily. Two questions. I'm giving you a hard time.
It's an awful lot, but it's prep work that has to be done.
Yeah.
Because what you're gonna do is change culture,
Yes.
and you're gonna address individuals and measure their performance, or however you do as a L.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of work, and it's moving right along. But me, I'm a results person, so when we get to the point you have some data that shows before and after, then that'll be the thing that really determines the success of the program. A lot of hard work.
Yeah, we've been celebrating a lot at RMS, as we've kind of come back, going into December and coming back in January, and reflecting on all the things that we've accomplished already this year. It's remarkable how much we have done, and I think it's evident in the slides that David showed of that gap in those MFI results. Of there's a lot of areas that we've made a lot of progress in, and that people are hungry for more. Like, they're all in. It's really great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Oh, we have the agenda?
So there was one more thing that we kind of added on in January. So it was in the last agenda sent out, but it's not so much of an intense conversation, and there's nothing to project and nothing to hand out today, but there's two kind of things happening at the middle high school level that will be up and coming either to this group and or to the whole school board. And we kind of wanted to put it on this group's radar and get some preliminary, at least maybe some ideas, questions for us to start thinking about, et cetera, before we move forward. So one of the two is an opportunity that the whole Career Tech Ed Center for this region has, which is a renovation process where it's our Career Tech Ed Center's sort of time in the cycle. I believe our time frame is 2026 or 2025. It's coming right up. And each of the 3 towns that are a part of our region's Career Technology Center can apply for this renovation grant, I guess. And the state provides 75% of the approved funding for whatever the process is. The community would be responsible for the other 25%. And that 25% could be through fundraising efforts or through warrant articles on the budget or things like that. So this process can cover renovation of existing spaces for Career Tech Ed, which in our case would be the Industrial Arts building that's here. It can cover expansion space if there's additional programming that we would want to add or things like that. It could cover renovation of existing interior spaces if they would then become attached to Career Tech Ed programs. So there's a lot of opportunity. And it's not something that comes up often. I think it's once every 10 or 20 years, a center is eligible for that process. And because we're attached with the Conval Center, there's a lot of data collection work that they've already done and a lot of things that the director there does. There's definitely some programs that are currently high demand programs that nobody's offering in our region that we could, if we wanted to in this process, take and add on to our center here at Conant. And some of the things that already have come up, there's no cosmetology program in this region, the closest being in Keene. Conval is currently sending 4 of their students to that program. We've sent over the last 2 years, 2 or 3 individuals. Messinic, the superintendent at our last regional advisory council meeting, said that they offer only a club for that purpose, and it's the only one of their clubs that has a waiting list. She said they would certainly be sending kids in droves over to a program if it was offered here. It's not something that Conval or Messinic are considering for their centers, but again, could be something we could consider here. Culinary arts and chefs skills and things like that. Another high demand, the closest center for that is also Keene. And right now there's no desire, it seems like, for Conval to add it at their center, but there's a lot of desire of their kids to do that learning. So again, there's some potential there if we explored that as our own, looking at our own center expanding here. And another item that kind of came up that was interesting was right now Conval offers a portion of a CTE track around public safety, but they're not able to offer all of the courses. We could offer some of the science courses potentially that would fill into that overall track, which would allow us to tuition some of those kids here for that purpose, but also potentially renovate some of our science spaces to then be also used for that purpose. So those are just brainstorms. None of those are things we would say do or don't do, but we're hoping to engage this group certainly, and then the school board in a conversation about how to go about exploring this a little bit further. There's obviously a timeline and there have to be preliminary work done and things like that, but it's something that we would want to start having conversations about soon if that was something we wanted to explore.
So I'm on the parents group for JGS, and we had our meeting on Tuesday for the month, and we were actually talking about where there's a culinary arts program, because we try to do some sort of catered lunch during Teacher Appreciation Week in May. And we said, well, we have no more restaurants to help us with this.
Right.
Where's the closest school program? Enlist them to come cater lunch to the teachers.
Yeah.
So I'm all for the culinary arts.
And that in schools that have that program, some of them just do the catering side of developing culinary arts. I know in Keene they do both. They have an active restaurant that the community can enter, and they actually have a front of house portion of the courses, a business portion of the courses, and a back of house kind of dishes, cooking side of it as well. And so it's an active restaurant that students can visit during the day, teachers, community members, but they also do catering, and they bill and do all that other stuff. So that's one element that, again, there's definitely a need. We don't really have a lot of that service here, but kids are really interested in that in our school. And apparently from the Conval and Messinic superintendents and from the surveys there as well, we just had our cooking class, nothing beyond that, participated in a statewide cooking competition, turning MRE meals. So you've already seen that. Yeah,
that was good. Yeah.
They were competing against a culinary program in other schools and came in 3rd place overall in the main competition and won the snack comp. But these are against culinary programs, and our kids already had the interest and in some cases the intrinsic skill, but more it was the thirst to learn this, that they were able to do that. It was incredible. And they went into these culinary kitchens and were overwhelmed, but came back saying, we really wish we had this program here. So there's a lot of anecdotal information that supports it, but there is data too, knowing that data is the important part of it. So, we'd be very interested in putting this on as a more formal topic going forward and getting a lot of feedback and engaging this group quite a bit. And then at some point in the spring, hopefully going to the board and seeking a more formalized plan to move forward. So
would it be a situation of picking one, like culinary arts, or
we could do, so as long as the program is not currently offered at either Conval or Messinic, and the data, there has to be data supporting it, or else we would not be eligible for Perkins grant funding. There's a ton of funding that goes into starting up a program, and then maintenance funding through the ICR grants and Perkins grants. So in order to be eligible for that, which we would definitely want to do, there has to be data supporting that there's a business need for that within our region. And all these programs we've talked about have a high need.
Okay, so we could do more than
we could do as many as we wanted, as long as they're supported by data.
Super cool.
So that's topic one, and you can just marinate that one on your brain, unless you have any other questions tonight about that one or thoughts.
Sounds
No,
amazing.
I'm very impressed because meals ready to eat, there's nothing you can do. to make
Oh,
this
yeah. I was the judge for the school-based competition, filtering there was like 10 teams that, 10 teams, I think it was, that initially did this, and it was myself, Heather, and two gentlemen from the National Guard who were the judges, and they did, some of them you could tell, yep, this was an MRE. Others, it was like, oh my goodness, you could, this could be something you actually want to eat. So they did a great job.
Very interesting.
So that we're really excited about that conversation. We know it's going to be a lot of work. We know it's going to be a lot of process, but we think our kids and community are worth all that effort and time. And this is a once in a couple decade opportunity to get the vast majority of the cost covered for us. So we're hoping we can do something with that. So we're asking you to kind of marinate that one on your brains for our next meeting, and we'll put that on prominently on the agenda to have more of a discussion. And the second topic is more of a, again, kind of letting this group know if there's any thoughts today, we're certainly eager to hear them. We're hoping to come to the entire school board with this conversation, relatively soon. We have both by NEASC, which is our accrediting body, and now some state elements, we really do have to move forward with the formal merger of our schools' identities in the middle high school level. It's a strong recommendation from NEASC based on the work that we've already done, that our staff has self-reflected on and captured. We have so much overlap and sharing going on now, but there's that barrier of JRMS/CHS. It is definitely something that's noticeable at this point. So there's that recommendation as we approach our 10-year accreditation. But as we're making the switch to the state student information system with ALMA, there's some behind the scenes components of that are made more difficult, being two separate schools. And in conversation with the state, this is an opportunity where they can support helping us with that merger process once we're clear on where we want to go. So our intention is to survey the community and get a lot of feedback from community members, parents and guardians, learners, teachers and staff, and be able to present a plan to the school board about what the data is telling us is the best move to make, what we'd like to see happen, et cetera. So prior to us approaching the board, again, if there's any feedback or thoughts that this group would have about process, about types of data that would be especially important to making a good decision, we would certainly be open to that as well.
I'm sure people would just want to know the pros and cons of actually merging. Like how does it benefit us to merge? How does it hurt us to not, or benefit us to not? Either way,
So
it'd be huge because I'm not even sure I know.
So if we, in that process of presenting data to the board and to the community, it would be helpful to have a really clear, here's where we're at, here's where we've been. At this point, if we make this decision, this is what it would look like. If we make this decision, this is what it would look like. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
We can definitely pull that together.
Anything?
No?
Okay.
I think you said it.
Okay. Real quick, just before we leave, I feel like you do so much every single time. Can we tell, like, when are we going to do a quarterly? I feel like it's more like a weekly thing. I feel like you're here all the time with new slides, and I'm like, that poor guy is just like, here I am again.
I think you're due again in, what is it, 3 months?
3 months. Okay. All right.
So April.
All right. We'll look forward to April. I'm like, oh my gosh. I wasn't sure if you were feeling the same way. I'm like, I wonder if he has more stuff to.
There's a lot that goes in.
So much it goes-
MTSS-B.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's a huge team effort.
Yeah. We can see that for sure.
Preschool through 12th grade. So
Yep.
it's a lot.
That's good. All right. I think if that's it, then
Okay.
meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.
See you in February.